All right, Shane, would you like to introduce yourself to the people on the podcast, the people that are listening to the podcast, and the people that are on the panel right now?
Yeah, my name is Shane Lafleur. I'm a lot of things, but yeah, I'm a father, a husband of, and I'm a father of one right now. Our second one's coming in January, but I'm
Congratulations.
also appreciate that, and I'm also in the real estate business as well as the commercial HVAC business. So.
Nice, nice. And can you speak about both of those real quick? What do you do in real estate and the HVAC business?
So in the HVAC business, I'll start with that one because that's just kind of the longer train of what I've been doing for the past let's call it 7 years out of college.
Yeah,
Um, and what I do there is I work for a national, well, I guess a global manufacturer, actually the industry leading manufacturer in the world. And right now I used to work for them in New Jersey as a sales guy, working with local contractors, engineers. And recently I took on the national accounts kind of a role in the national accounts division. So now I work for couple clients who are now work for the sales guys that have national account customers. So we sell and distribute commercial HVAC equipment across the nation. So
nice, nice.
yeah,
And do you do that as like a W-2 or is
yeah. So
that
that is my W-2 job. I do that full time, and in the real estate business, real estate agent and an investor.
nice, nice? So you're a real estate agent. What got you? But before we even get into all that, I really want to know about your actual upbringing, right? So,
Yeah.
as a child growing up, did you always have that? Oh, let me have that business mindset, or did you know, like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna get into some sort of real estate or something when I'm 18? Well, what was your life like in the beginning?
No, life like in the beginning. I don't know where you want to start, but I grew up with my parents were divorced. I grew up with my mom. We lived in northern Vermont in Burlington, and we lived in I don't know if it's Section 8 housing necessarily, but it's low income housing, subsidized. And I lived there, and then my mom got married, and we moved to another part of Vermont, and I didn't really like the area. I didn't like the kids in the schools. I was really into my academics and my athlete in my sports. So I was kind of like a three sport athlete. Did soccer, wrestling, and lacrosse. And then I moved over to New York to live with my dad since I didn't like the area so much. So I did that at freshman year of high school. In there, I just kind of I worked at a golf course, went to school, just kind of focused on getting straight A's. Didn't really focus on where I wanted to go to school, what I wanted to do. Just really kind of had my mind in doing the schoolwork and the sports, and I never really followed through with much of the sports aspect. I got a couple offers to play at some local schools in the area, but I didn't want to play for some lower levels. They weren't even like D3. They were I don't even know what you would classify them as. But yeah, I went to a state school in New York and up in Plattsburgh. Got my chemistry degree. I was teetering in high school between chemistry. I was really good in science, and I was also really interested in business. I didn't really know what kind of business. I think I just wanted to probably be like a run a management. I just wanted to make money, but I didn't really know what that meant.
Yeah,
So I was like, I just want to be well off. My parents both didn't get a college education. My dad went into the military, and did very well for himself there. He worked in the Navy. He was in the Navy, got himself an engineering position, basically fixing X-rays and now fixing hospital equipment out of his career. So just watching them. I just wanted to be in a position where I could make more money and be in a healthy position for my future. And so with that, I was like, oh, everyone's pushing go to college. So I went to Plattsburgh. I was going for chemistry. I was doing some internships with some chemists. Realized what they made didn't get me too excited. And I was like, I'm not going out partying. I'm studying every night. Trying to focus on my grades while everyone's out having a good time. And I make this low amount. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to take that and I'm going to go to engineering school. So I went to RPI up in New York, Rensselaer Polytech Institute, and got my chemical engineering degree with a physics minor. And yeah, and I just kept going. And that's where I got my degree in sales doing commercial HVAC.
Nice, nice. And when you were 18, right? Was that like a whole thing? Was that like a big thing growing up? Like, yeah, I gotta go to college. If I don't go to college, uh, I'm just a bad guy, I guess. I don't know. Something like that,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And
I would say my dad was pushing me really hard to go into the military. A lot of funny thing, I'll say a girl in middle school, I talked to her and they were kind of like my friend group. And I was like, yeah, I'll probably go into the military. And they're like, no, man, you should, you should get a job or something like that. Like you don't need to go to the military just because your dad says you need to go to the military. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. But, if I think and I want to say if I look back on it, I don't think the military is a bad option. Just because I did go the route of I didn't have any subsidized. My dad did make enough money so that I didn't really receive a lot of financial aid. So I did
Mhm.
pay. I have to pay my whole way through college.
Okay, okay. And now looking back, would you say what's your perspective on college? Was it like a big impact, or is it more like, yeah, I went, shouldn't have went either, or like what is your perspective now that you're older?
Yeah, that's the tough question that I always I don't know if I regret. It's always something that I always kind of look back and it's probably like a tipping point. If I still went to college and maybe went into the military, things could have been different. But if I went into a trade school or something else, I see a lot of bonus in that too. I like the degree and everything that I went after in college, so that's why I can't say I hate what I went for in college because I did study hard. I got a good job after college. I think I made more than most of the people that were in the class that I was in. I was probably mid-tier in terms of 80 students in the chemical engineering class. I probably made, a little bit better. And then I would say, and that's because I probably primarily took a sales job
Yeah.
um,
And
after
what advice
college.
do you have for those that are in college? What can they do to make the most out of it, to make the most out of college when like they're probably like in student loans, they're like, hey, this is even worth it, right? What can they do while they're in college and make it worth it?
So yeah, there's two things I would say that are the biggest thing that I wish I did and that I did do. So the two things that I wish I did was, and I did kind of look for scholarships and all that kind of stuff, but I was like, no, and like I didn't work during college. I thought, hey, I need to focus down. I need to nail down my studies. I need to really drive it home. I mean, I was taking like 21 credits a semester kind of thing because I had to jam pack all my engineering. Because I first went to chemistry, did all my chemistry degrees, so I have a dual degree. So I did a lot of my chemistry studying, and then I did full on engineering. So I had like in those 4 to 5 years, I had to jam pack every semester with all these credits. So I would say that I focused on that more than I should have. Also been in the mindset of probably working my way through college. I think if you can do both, even if it's just for a little bit of play money, it creates some discipline, creates some working hours. I think that's really important. Um, and that way you're not, sometimes there were some lazy moments like I didn't have class starting till 10 a.m. And I was like, yeah, just, I did study obviously late at night and stuff like that, but there was some moments where like, I don't need to wake up early. I'll just wake up at, 9:30 and then hop into class kind of thing. So
Mhm.
I think discipline working through college is a good important aspect. But the second thing is if you can apply and find as many scholarships as possible to apply to, even in high school, I would say do that. If college is the route that you really want to pursue, and you are having a little bit more trouble finding that financial aid.
Yeah. And was it difficult to find a job after getting your college degree?
No, so I think that's really attributed to the type of college that I did go to and the type of degree I went after. And I think with that, in the thing that I wanted to say was the two things that what you should be doing in college. One of the biggest things that I did, and I'd say networking, but I wouldn't even say networking in a way of like go party, right? Like there's no intent of partying. I went and applied to all these different clubs. I ended up running like an anti-slavery humanitarian club, and I didn't even really mean to. It was just I was talking to a girl. She was, handing out cupcakes, and like she struck up a conversation with me, and then I just joined her group, and then we just we started running the club together. And then she's like, "Yeah, I gotta go leave, do a semester abroad. You could take over the club." And I was just like, "Okay." I was like, I don't really know that much about this, but yeah. So I just took on the responsibility that I didn't necessarily know what I was taking on. But also with that, there was an alumni association called Red and White, where we got to speak with a lot of alumni. I also met just a lot of individuals in that club that were just high performers, people that were, a lot smarter than I was, kind of surrounding myself again with people that were a lot smarter, hardworking, just high achievers more so than I was. And from there, I ended up getting some relationships, and people had internships and stuff like that, and they recommended me a lot for these internships and these interviews. So
Nice,
that's
nice,
really what kind of pushed me to get into the certain interviews that gave me the job that I had.
nice. And what got you into the whole like entrepreneurial like business mindset after your everything? Like what made you become a real estate agent?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like I always kind of had that mindset. I wasn't like one of those kids that was like, jockeying pencils and gum out of my backpack. I was more so like, I was on the wrestling team, and they gave me like 50 bars to go sell. And I was like, yeah, let's go sell some bars. And I was just like knocking doors in my neighborhood. And I would I don't know, like first week, maybe I would sell out, and then I'd ask for a second one. And like, you know what I mean? Like, I just kind of like was nervous about doing it, but it was just like, yeah, let's go get it done. Or like team sports cards where like you go around and it was like $10 for the card, and they gave you discounts all over across town, like Dunkin' Donuts or local restaurants and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I was going to hustle on those. In college, I applied for this like painters program. They were like college kids painting, something like that. And it was like an entrepreneurship. Like they would bring you out to their wherever. Didn't even get that far after the interview. I don't know why, but they never really told me. But yeah, they would train you, and then you go back home, and then you like bring up a group of guys, and then you advertise and try to paint people's homes in your local, your local hometown. So I tried doing that. So I just kind of like had a want for it, but I just never really knew how to get started. So the reason I got into real estate is kind of about entrepreneurship, not really. I moved down to North Carolina. So I was in New Jersey for about 4.5 years doing my sales role. And I was making substantial amount of money. I was on my way to start making a lot more money. And silly me was like, yeah, let's go down, move North Carolina to where my mom was, my sister. They moved down here a lot longer ago. And then my brother-in-law actually just got out of Fort Bragg 2019. So my wife's family was here, my family was here. Like, let's go North Carolina, have a family, right? So everyone was in the Raleigh area. We're like, yeah, let's do this. So I left my good paying job, and I interviewed with a company, a different company selling hydronic equipment to commercial buildings, and moved January 2020, started my position. 2 months later, shut down, right?
Wow.
Pandemic.
Okay.
So my job is a sales role. I go out, talk to contractors. I meet them in their offices. I meet engineers in their offices. I display my products. I talk about why my products, if and or but good or better than the other one. And I'm here to show them our selection tools, our processes, like everything's very like educational and technical. So if I can't get in front of the customer or the people, it's all relationships too. And I definitely found out in the funny thing is the fun fact of selling in New Jersey, in New York City, is people will tell you to your face like, hey, you're a jerk off, I hate you, like you really screwed me up on this job. And then you just come up and be like, hey, sorry man, like this is why it happened, or like totally own that one, I completely messed that up. And they're like, all right, I got a job bidding tomorrow,
Yeah.
like give me your number, let's go. And they're like, I got a design build project, like 200 stories or whatever. And it's just like, they'll tell you how it is, and then you go about it, and it's great. And then down here in North Carolina, you could be like, hey man, I haven't done business with you in 6 months, what's the issue? And they're like, no man, you're doing great. And they're like, well, if you've been doing great, I would have gotten a sale, at least one of these 5 jobs. I know you got these 5 jobs, how come I didn't get anything? And they're like, you know what, man, just keep bidding, we'll get one. And I was like, well, I can't send you any more bids. And they just didn't care.
Mm.
So it was just a very like hand and bourbon business, is what another guy told me is what it is down here. And I was just like, yeah, I definitely felt it. So I guess long story short is I had some issues in my job, in my transition. I was like, what am I gonna do? And that's what led me running into this national account position a year later. But in the meantime, I was like, let me just keep doing what I'm doing with this job and let me learn about real estate. I picked up a Bigger Pockets book, started listening to the Bigger Pockets podcasts, and I was like, I don't really have a community around here. I don't really know how to get a part of one. Let me get my real estate license, put myself in an office of people that are talking about real estate. So that was the main reason about getting my real estate license, was just surround myself with the people in the industry.
Nice, nice. And would you say, what is your next plan? See, I see that you're a big guy in like in sales and everything. Are you getting into like the whole wholesaling, or is it mostly like, uh, are you doing finding your own deals or anything like that, or is it just like, hey, you're just working with people as of now?
Yeah, that's a good question. 2020, when I was looking at Bigger Pockets and everything, I did follow a guy, and maybe it's just because he popped up on my Instagram or something like that, Cody Sperber. So the Clever Investor. I saw him. He was talking about his course, so I ended up buying his course. I think it was like 99 cents for the first month or something like that. So I just like got his wholesaling course, was reading up on it, and I had a first call with the guy. And I was like, "Hey, man, I'm thinking about getting my license, but I really want to do this too. Like, I think this is interesting." He's like, "Yeah, man, don't get your license. So, like, you don't need it." Da, da, da. And I was like, "Okay." So I was learning that, and it's like, I don't just, I guess with the hustle of like me having a W-2, and they're all like, go put out bandit signs and go do this, and you need a list, and I don't know. It was just, it seemed more intense than maybe what I was prepared for. So I was like, that seems like a good option, but let me just kind of like, I still need to learn a lot more about this industry than just jumping in and throwing signs out there and and calling people and not knowing what I'm talking about. So yeah, 6 months later, that's when I started to apply to get my license, surround myself with people. What I do now is I work with investors and people, yeah, trying to buy or sell their house, retail. I'm starting to focus now as of mid this year. I did send out some more mailers, so I kind of have more of like a four-prong approach of how I want to start direct mail marketing listings. And if I get a conversation, I'm marketing it as a real estate investor, and that's kind of my focus, is as I want to acquire more properties. But um, if they're like, "Hey, man, I want to sell a top dollar, blah blah blah," or if I just want to sell to you, that way I can do maybe some seller creative seller financing, or sell it as their real estate agent.
Mm-hmm. And what gives off someone that is like a serious investor? Uh, it because for me, I hear a lot of my investor friends, or like not investor friends, my realtor friends that say like, "Oh man, yeah, I can't close with this guy. He's just not a serious investor." Or you could just sense somebody like not knowing what they're doing when they're with the real estate agent. What are some key indications that either they're not experienced or they're very experienced?
Yeah, I would say it all comes down to, I feel like, communication.
Hmm.
Someone that obviously has a clear, defined, knowing what they want. It, I, I think the first probably 10 or so people, investors that I got were like, "Hey, just give me the 1% rule." In the Raleigh market, they're like, "I want $200,000 less." And I was like, "So am I finding you on market deals or off market deals?" And they're like, then everyone, once I say that, they're like, "Oh, off market." And there's no, then I was like, "All right, so what kind of criteria are you looking for?" And they're like, 3-2, it's a lot of like, I think setting the realistic expectations of what crystal clear criteria you're trying to work with. And I think a lot of, just very easily you tell people that don't know the market and what they want out of the market, right? Like, they don't know what their goals are. So I can help them find the property that matches their goals. Whereas I had a couple investors like, "Hey, I'm a short-term rental investor. I bought a lot of properties this way. I'm going to use a DSCR loan." Like, they kind of have the facts. And then sometimes, they're teaching me some new things, right? So I think when you run across people like that, it's very cut and clear that they have an idea and they know what they're doing. Whereas, not that people that are buying, don't know what they're doing. I think they don't test or care that you're the realtor. They're just hoping that you're going to throw them a Hail Mary at the end of the day of like, "Hey, man, I bought you an off market deal that's, just basically right, like a miracle, like 3-2. 1,800 square feet for $90,000, almost turnkey cosmetic
Yeah.
work, right? Like, and it's renting $2,000 a month.
Wow. Yeah. I would
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
that. A-
Exactly. So,
And would you say for an investor, is it even worth going with a real estate agent or just like, hey, just go with the wholesaler, right? Because now that I'm becoming a more mature investor, I see it as I don't want anything on market, right? Occasionally I'll look at it, but it's like if everyone has access to this, there's a reason why nobody else is investing into this. Or maybe not. Maybe people are just looking at it, it's like they're just blind to it. Uh they just don't see the value in it. But what is your opinion on like should people reach out to real estate agents for deals or should they just like find their own deals in a way or like just do driving for dollars and or go with a wholesaler, something like that? What's your opinion on that?
yeah. It reminds me of someone I met at another meetup. They were like, I think a real estate agent. They're like, they're a bunch of friends talking, and they were like, "Should this guy buy a house?" And I was like, "I don't know. What is he? Why does he want a house? Does he want a house?" And it's kind of like the question of like, do I want to find something on market or off market? It really comes down to what are you trying to do as an investor? Like, are you an experienced investor and I can provide you something where there's value and you can execute it and close on it quickly? Or is this something that maybe that's a higher dollar value most of the time that you're probably going to see something on the MLS, but you see the margin or you see the capability, or we can talk about the capabilities of maybe adding a bedroom or adding an ADU or those different things where like,
Yeah.
I would say it may be like a tier up where like you're truly adding a lot of there's a lot of money at play, even with whether you're using private investors' money or you're using hard money or something like that. You still probably need substantial capital to get into those type of deals. Um, so I think depending on what you want, and are you looking, someone that's trying to house hack or something like that, like someone that's brand new and they want to find a property, maybe they have enough money that they can do a new construction loan and they can build an ADU on the property or something like that, or they can add extra square footage or have a GC add, separate the basement from the upstairs and
Yeah.
create a house hack opportunity. I think those are great opportunities, but I would also say working off market, I think is a great opportunity. I think everyone should try to find off market deals by either by themselves or with a wholesaler. Um, but I also think that what a real estate agent is and does, and maybe that's every entrepreneur, every real estate investor. I don't know. You maybe can answer that question better than me, but is you have to find the relationships and the opportunities. So I might have relationships and opportunities that you don't have.
Yeah.
So as a realtor, that's just kind of like I call it a name tag, right? Like that's not necessarily maybe if you're trying. I guess the question I was asked the realtors if they're familiar with working with investors or working on off market opportunities, or you can just even ask the realtor if they have any pocket listings. Maybe you don't want to necessarily look at if you're trying to find kind of like I want to say maybe not necessarily a needle in the haystack, but you want to find something that not everyone's getting access to, and you feel like you have the credentials to close on a property faster than anybody else, and you work the relationship with that person. I think you can ask for pocket listings, or I mean, I work with wholesalers too, so like I even source wholesale deals. I obviously share that information. I'm not just saying like, hey, I found you this opportunity, but like, hey, I have an off-market opportunity. Another guy, XYZ or whoever I might say, brought me the deal. I have this relationship with him. Would you would you mind looking at it? So I would say I bring that. I think there's value in the relationships that other people have as well.
Nice. And a lot of these people, they like, especially the panel here, they have questions like, how do you feel about like the market today? Uh, since like rates are going high, I mean, to me, it doesn't matter, but uh, for a lot of people, they're like, hey, I'm trying to like a beginner, right? A newbies, they're really trying to like house hack or trying to buy their first like rental income property, but it's just
Yeah.
not working out because, either house prices are going high, right? You can't buy houses for raisins. I'm not gonna lie. But and it's like, you don't know when the right time is to like go in because when I started finding my own properties, I was like, dude, I'm probably buying this thing all like really high. Like I one of my properties, I bought it for 310, right? And I was like, God, Lee, this is only a duplex and it's like really expensive. Why? And now I look back on it and now it's worth 400K, right? I'm like, holy shit, what's going on here? It's the same wood and everything since last year. Like nothing's really changed, but and like a lot of people, I'm like, if I were to buy that same house like now for 400K, I would have been like, oh my God, thank God I invested like whenever it was at 310, right? So
Yeah.
I just want to see your opinion on it, where it's like everybody else are trying to like get into investing, but they can't because either it's like a blockage of when it's the right time to invest, or it's a blockage of like maybe it's not a right time to invest because the world is like, kind of like shitting on you because there's like you can't buy it for raisins. You can't basically like put 20% down because you don't have that capital. So what is your opinion on it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in the craze of everything, I think the people that are I think it all comes down to relationships. The people that are going to continue to do well, that are doing well, have those relationships with the people that are finding the deals. Unless you're the person finding the deals yourself, then
Yeah.
I think I'm sure their marketing dollars. I mean, I don't know necessarily that. I don't have all those conversations all the time, but I'm sure even their cost per acquisition is probably going up now, just with the way, we could see that changing in the next 3 to 6 months when maybe people purchasing in the past 3 to 6 months where now they realize that they can't afford, or they did a buy down, or they really can't afford the rate that they got. So they're trying to be a little more try to get out of the property, be a little more motivated than they have been. Whereas a lot of people, yeah, they have great interest rates. So finding those opportunities, I think are all relationship based. I mean, I would still consider myself extremely new. I mean, I've only been in the industry for 2 years, and I'm just closing my second deal 3 months ago. And that one was purely I partnered with somebody, and they have all the relationships and they have all the expertise, and I'm kind of trying to learn off of their back, right? So in terms of the market, the way I see people trying to buy in their primary residence, house hack opportunities. I think you still probably have to be a little creative with the price budgets, right? So trying
Yeah.
to find that extra square footage, trying to find where you can build equity to the play, I feel like is always an important topic. But I guess if you don't have the equity to jump into some of these projects, that's probably where you're gonna want to try to obviously be very more creative on the seller side. I think real estate, you're going to need capital from somewhere to invest, and that's the tough part. Whether you have the knowledge and you try to partner up with somebody, but in terms of that and making the numbers work, I think there's opportunity. I think rents are still going to increase a little bit. I mean, I'm no fortune teller, so I don't know, but I think there's a gap still. But right now everyone's kind of the housing market has cooled off in a sense of things are on the market a little longer. There's not a bidding war in terms of you trying to buy something a year ago versus today.
Yeah.
I think people are probably seeing a lot more stability in negotiations going on. But again, I think it depends on what you're looking for and how much capital you have.
Nice. And have you seen anybody like offer like way, I guess, would it be inappropriate for someone to send a low ball offer? Do you ever feel as like an agent, like, why am I sending this up? Is this even worth it? Or do you try to like, it is like more like, do I have to send this up? Or is it like, since I'm working with this guy, I do, but I gotta tell him like, hey, can we not send it out? How does that work out?
Yeah, I think it's just communication. That's the way. I mean, I don't know how other people are doing it, but I feel like it's communication from your end and their end. And I think you just got to set expectations. So, if it's sitting on the market for 60 plus days and it's at the top of the comps, I think that's when you have a conversation. Even if something sold 30, 60, 90 days ago, and it's at the top of the comps, I think you just have a conversation with the listing agent. And you try to get a feel for the motivation of the seller side. Obviously, if the seller and the agent are going to be like, yeah, we're pretty stiff on this, I could submit the offer. It's not going to go anywhere. right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to change their mind. So I think you got to gauge the flexibility and the timing and the terms, and then you go have the conversation with your client and figure out, okay, here's the possibilities that we can take a shot at. How do you want to structure the deal? What makes you more comfortable? If do you want, I guess essentially is it, do you want to try to fight and negotiate more on pricing, or do you want to try to fight and negotiate more on terms?
Okay.
So, and then that's the conversation I have with my clients. And then, obviously if it's, hey, just submit this offer anyways, I'm in a position that I'm okay with, I guess, getting the practice in it, but I'm not overly like ecstatic or, have high expectations on that offer.
Yeah, definitely. And do you have teams involved while you're doing all this? Like, do you have like a what are they called? A listing agent, a uh what are they called as well? A coordinator, a
Transaction
closing,
coordinator.
yeah, transaction coordinator. Do you have all that as well, or is it just you working on everything?
It right now it's me working on everything.
Yeah.
I kind of right now sourcing my own leads. I don't really do anything in terms of like the paid advertising or anything right now. It's all kind of just right now word of mouth. Set up my own business pages. Try to run the flow through there. And just kind of me right now running the mill, doing it myself. I do have a team, a transaction coordinator team that I rely on, so I will use them. When a deal comes to fruition. But other than that, it's me working the lead flow.
Okay. Okay. And let's say like someone wanted to get started into being a real estate agent or just getting into real estate themselves. What is an advice you would give them?
It's a good question. I would say, and this is just, I guess, because it's pertaining to my situation where I do have a W-2 where someone is trying to be a dual career agent, or, someone has the capacity to jump in full time, even better. I think this if someone is like, hey, I'm just going to do this as a side hustle and try to make some money. Um, maybe you're a more social outgoing person than I am. Like I said, I was chemistry major, chemical engineer. Like I introverted guy. Like I just wanted to be in a lab when I was getting my college education. I was like, nah, I don't want a sales role. Like I just want to be in a lab. No one talk to me, leave me alone. But yeah, like if you're that super outgoing and you have all these relationships, you're, in a hometown or an area that you think your business is just going to skyrocket, go for it. But I think if you're in a new town, you're maybe not necessarily sales inclined or understand, business lead generation. It's harder than it looks, and it's harder than you think. People say that all these, real estate agents, they don't work for their commission. It's so easy for them. But like, and there might be some agents that have built out a team and they're just, kicking butt, and they're, it is easy for them maybe. But for me and the way I got into the business, it's a lot harder than it looks. There is a lot of business involved. There's a lot of like things that you have to put into it. Like, I guess as a true entrepreneur, you're hunting what you eat. It's a grind.
Yeah.
You got to find it, and you got to figure out, what am I doing wrong, and you got to find out what you need to fix.
Nice. Okay. I love that. What you eat.
Yeah.
And you said you were a chemist too. So I'm kind of intrigued. You like, is it like the movies where you're like actually playing with chemicals? It's like Breaking Bad where you're almost like you're like, oh, I made a drug by accident, quote unquote. Or is it like, how does that work? Is it like that? Or you like kind of bummed out when you found out that it's mostly just paperwork and a lot of red tape? Like, how does that go?
Yeah. So the internships that I have, so I never really got into like ExxonMobil or any of these bigger companies where like you're probably out doing a lot more batch reaction type stuff. So chemical engineers, you're doing what's considered like large batch reactions. Like you're doing tens of thousands of tons of reactions, where like it has like an exothermic reaction where it's letting off like thousands of BTUs of heat, and you're just like, you could fry a man's face off if you were too close. Whereas like I also did R&D research for a resin company up in New York, and you're dealing, you're not dealing with like things going kaboom and kind of stuff, but like you are mixing different reactions, and you have like a vacuum and things are like bubbling up and going back down, and you're dealing with like condensing loop things, like this weird glassware that kind of looks like some other recreational materials. But yeah, they're just like super creative, cool
Gotcha.
things you can play with. But it is fun. But yeah.
You have one in your home right now, like a little lab that you play with?
No, I don't. Probably the only thing I can think of is maybe like that little coffee maker that I have, like where you
Oh,
like put a
okay.
little Bunsen burner under it and it like bubbles up and then it releases the coffee.
And I'm wondering, like, do you also like use like the whole periodic table, like all the chemicals on there and everything else, or is it like, or some stuff like illegal to get because they're very uh kind of dangerous in a way?
Yeah, I don't really deal with that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's some big manufacturing companies when I was in the R&D field where you're buying like specific compounds like magnesium sulfate or like those different kind of things. Or like there's one specific compound that this one company manufactured, then they have a patent on kind of thing. So then need you to cause another reaction that you need for your experiment. So you buy them, they come in these bottles and they look like just powder, like protein powder in a jug kind of thing. Like they just look so innocent. But in terms of like how to acquire all that kind of stuff, I never really got into that. The only thing that I kind of deal with now, and like I said, I was a sales guy, so I was selling equipment and that kind of stuff. So I never really got into like the R&D lab part of it. But
Yeah,
like we deal with like refrigerants, so you kind of have to understand like pressures and temperatures. It's really kind of the most you really need to understand. And then there's different flow stuff that like mass like not thermodynamics, but it's like mass transport concepts. So you're just understanding like with a chill water system, so like a large commercial building or like a university will have the refrigerant in this piece of equipment in a basement somewhere.
yeah.
And what that refrigerant will do is go through these tubes and then water will pass over it because the water's warmer than the refrigerant in the tubes.
Uh,
And then that'll cool the water down and then the water gets sent to the buildings to go through fan coils, sealing cassettes, different things that basically the fan just pushes air over those coils and makes the air cold.
Oh,
Right.
that's
So
interesting.
yeah, and
I
water
feel,
is a lot more durable. I guess less flexible in terms of like it won't change in temperature that much often other than the refrigerant. So like if you're sending this thing hundreds of feet, you'll probably use water versus sending refrigerant.
wow. You could definitely pull off like the real estate agent that does chemistry, right? All you gotta do is wear a lab coat, walk around with like these like bottles of chemicals, be like, hey, you want to buy? I can show you how to buy a real estate, like I don't know, something cool like that you can. And I'll
So
definitely
method.
watch this. Yeah, you can probably make a TikTok off of
I
that.
was gonna I say that might be my niche. I mean, I
It
probably got to figure that out.
it could just all you gotta do is get a lab coat, and I
Yeah,
swear people are gonna come to you like that.
yeah.
Uh, and what is like a big like some big mistakes that you made early on in your career that you that kind of paid some dividends, or like you kind of were glad that you made those mistakes early on?
Yeah, so I would say just not really understanding how much I got into a huge amount of student loan debt to go to these different universities. Engineering school was private and it was not cheap. So do I respect the education that I got? 100%. Do I think I overpaid for it? 100%. That's the tough part. I would say definitely be mindful of your money when you're in college and before. I think that's one of the bigger mistakes I had. Like I said, I didn't work through college. I didn't go for scholarships. I just kind of had that expectation that when I'm out of college, I have a job and I can pay it off, and it's not a big deal. Whereas it did severely kind of impact my living situation. Like it's a huge part of my monthly expense, even though I had a good paying job. So I would say that my career, I don't know if I probably made a lot of mistakes, but I think you just got to push forward. There were some things where like, I guess in a sales position or a new job that you have right out of college, things can get really tough. And I think any job, things can get really tough. And I think that's the other thing that I wish that I did when I was younger is I went to engineering school because I wanted to go for the money. Yeah,
Hmm.
I learned a very valuable skill and I learned a lot about the refrigerant commercial HVAC industry. But would I say it's my passion? No. And do I wish I probably spent a little more time in my younger years to learn more about what my passion was? And, if I got to stay home with my parents and learned about real estate and became an agent then, I'd probably be a little bit more happier than I am today, just in that aspect. So, but that's the thing, is everyone kind of has their path, and kind of everyone has their reasons that why they get kind of pushed into different avenues. And I think my financial situation and me moving down here in North Carolina, like, I learned this whole new industry and world of real estate that I probably would have never learned being up still in New York or New Jersey. So I think you kind of get pushed into things throughout life, and you just got to take the opportunity to either kind of sit and sulk in what you kind of have done to yourself in the past, or you find a way to get out of
Wow, that's beautiful right there. Just
it.
you had to go through the suck. That's how I see it. And uh,
Sometimes.
and we can move on to the ending questions here. So, starting with the first one, if you can go back in time and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
Go back and tell myself something. I know everyone tells themselves about reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. And it's if I listen to every podcast, right, about entrepreneurship or bigger pockets,
Yeah,
everyone
I hate
hates
it every
it.
time I say
Yeah,
it.
right, same. But not necessarily bigger pockets, or it could be bigger pockets, but it that doesn't necessarily have to be Rich Dad Poor Dad. But I wish I listen to more audible books, or I was never really a reader in school, so I forced myself to, but I was never read for fun. So if there was a lot of business books or that kind of thing, I wish I would tell myself when I was younger to, hey, listen to some more books on, or listen to some more audio on business, and how money really works, and how that quadrant flow really works.
Yeah,
Because I think that is important. And I think if I understood it then more, I probably would have tried to do things a little bit differently.
gotcha. Did you even have audiobooks whenever you were like 18 or something?
I don't know. Probably. I know they had the what was it? Those Kindles, whatever.
Yeah, the little dude. I have a Kindle, and I probably say that's like the worst thing I ever bought because I never use it. Right,
No.
I like using physical books or like
Yeah.
audio books. Right, I just never use my Kindle. And I keep buying the newest version to see if I'll eventually use it, but I never do. That's the one thing that I hate about myself. I just don't like. Uh, but what question would you like to ask your future self? Let's say 20 years later.
Yeah, so there's some ideas that I'm trying to contemplate for 2023. They're pretty I guess crazy in terms of strategic. Like, I want to sell my properties and kind of put myself in a more of a house hack situation. And then, I have a family and that kind of stuff. So I'd love to ask myself, like, which way do I go? Do I try to stick it here and try to make more money in a business or something out in another venture? Or do we take that move and really just double down and compound our cash flow?
Yeah. Okay. So in a way, like, how would you ask your future self, what would you like to ask them? Like, hey, are we doing it? Or like, what is it?
Yeah. Say, do we take this strategy A or strategy B? If we take strategy B, how did it turn out?
Okay. Okay. Man, you're
Yeah.
trying to house hack with a family. See, with that, I see a lot of people that are like, oh, I got kids, I can't. I'm like, but it's possible though. You can still get like a quad or a triplex or a duplex and like live in one unit and rent out the other one. And as long as you have like a supporting family that, like kind of allows you to do that, and where they're not arguing with you, like, hey, maybe we should get like a single family home and like mow the lawn and, do whatever. But you're like, nah, I don't, I'm trying to do this for our future, which is awesome. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
And what do you think the secret sauce is into becoming very successful?
That's a great question. I definitely don't have the answer to that. I think, I guess if I would look at myself 10 years from now and to ask, like, if I was like, hey, this is what your life is, 10 years from now, I'd be like, yeah, I'd be pretty proud of myself. And I think that's all that matters. I don't, you're not trying to prove yourself to anybody else. So you just think, what do you want in the next 5 to 10 years? And just build a plan around it. And I think the only way you can kind of get there is build the plan. But I think even, I would say, the job that I got out of college in that new sales role was very demanding. And I think there was a lot of times where I felt like I wanted to quit or probably was going to get fired or whatever. And um, not that I just like put my head down and just stuck through it, but like, I had to remind myself that there were people in my position before, people that had my position that had it worse than I did. And they were not necessarily my mentors, but they were teammates in the office that I saw overcame it. And then they, were very successful in their own doing. So I was like, all I got to do is just kind of follow their breadcrumbs. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. I
Mhm.
just need to do my work. I need to do it. I need to put the hustle in and obviously take any advice and follow the people that are smart and successful around you. But you need to do the work yourself.
Nice. I love it.
You know.
Doing the work, the hard work. And what is a quote that you live by?
What is a quote that I live by? It's not a quote that I lived by for very long. I don't even know if I ever lived by a quote other than probably one that I heard 3 or probably 6 months ago now. That I just kind of really stuck to me is success should not be a surprise.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know who said it. I know I think I might have heard Brandon Turner say it on this podcast, and he probably named who said it. I don't remember who said it, but I think that one is what's keeping me consistent, sticking to the plan and doing the work that I need to do.
Yeah, of course. Like someone that's working 80 hours a week or 90 hours, right? And they're like, and someone says like, "Hey, why?" Like, oh, I'm not surprised that person is successful. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they put in the work, and yeah, that's actually a good quote. I like that. What books would you also recommend? Whether it's financial, whether it's life, anything, right? Well, or like fiction, right? If you like,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, Harry Potter or whatever, right?
Yeah.
What are some books would you recommend?
There was, I don't know who suggested it, and it wasn't really like a business book. I mean, it kind of is a business book in terms of like the aspirations that it has. I listen to more books on my phone than I do anything else. But I would say the two are Atomic Habits is a good one. That's not the one
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of though. Atomic Habits is a really good one. Profit First is a really good one. I really needed the Atomic Habits to really build my consistency. Ever since high school, I slept till like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, even in my new sales role. Like I went in at 7, and then, slowly over time, I started waking up at like 8:30. And then now with the family and everything that I want to get done in the day, I'm trying to reschedule everything to like wake up at 5 in the morning. So Atomic Habits really taught me that, like, man, just it's hard, but just try to be 1% better than you were yesterday. That's all you got
yeah.
to do. And then here, let me go to my library. It's Endure by Cameron Haynes. Um, and it's just about him being a bow hunter out in the Midwest. And again, it's just perseverance, consistency, having that mind. It was just a really mindset book. Nothing really about business or real estate, but it was very much a mindset type of book that just had a lot of cool just facts, a lot of really about his lifestyle, his story, about just how he pushed through all his hard times.
Nice. Okay. I never heard of that book either. The Endure, you said by Cameron
Cameron
Haynes.
Haynes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll check that book out. And the second and last question here is there anything that you want to tell your children, let's say 30 years from now, like, or whatever age you are right now, they're your age, and they're looking back at this podcast, what would you like to tell
Wow. That's very revealing.
them?
Hopefully daddy is a lot more successful than he is right now. And still, in shape in his 60s. I'll take that. Yeah, and hopefully if they're my age in this position in their, in their careers or whatever that may be, does it say my battery is low, I guess. Even though I thought I was plugged in. 1 second here. And I would say that if they're in this position that I'm in, or they're working towards something successful, I would say focus on whether it's a family or whatever your goals are. It doesn't necessarily have to be a family, but it doesn't have to be a balanced life either, but do what makes you happy. And if what your goals are and what you're striving to do and what you're doing in an entrepreneur lifestyle, or if they have a W-2, I think there's more to life than just a W-2 and working till you're 60. But I think whatever they're in, if they're happy or strive to do whatever makes them happy, I think that's going to be, don't do anything for the money. Do what you want to do that makes you happy, and the money that you need to live will be there.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. Mm, don't chase that money. uh, that's pretty deep right there. And lastly, how can people reach out to you, and what value can they give back to you?
So people can reach out to me on Instagram, Shane underscore sells homes Raleigh, or they can reach out to me on Facebook, Shane Lafleur, or they can find my business page, Shane Lafleur sells the dream. Um, there, and yeah, or send me an email, shane.lafleur@exprealty.com. And yeah, what was that second question?
What value can they give you back?
What value can they give me back? If you're an entrepreneur space, running a business, or you're in real estate and you want to ask me any questions that you have, I'm just an open book. I love talking about business or real estate, or how people are getting themselves to the next level. I know I struggle with things on the daily on keeping consistent and that kind of thing. So I would just love to talk and hear about how everyone is pursuing their goals, and how I can possibly help them, or what I can do to maybe give some personal advice, or just if you want to talk to me about it and just need a ear, I'm here.
Nice, nice. Love you, Shane. You did an awesome job here. And
Appreciate it. Thanks, you
yeah,
too.
and this podcast would be uploading in the New Year's, hopefully. We got
Okay.
a bunch of podcasts. But yeah, you did an awesome job, and I appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.